Okay. Hey everybody, this is Richard, and I am joined today by Jacob Wood of Accessible Games. And we are going to go through some of the options you have for running a game at GauntletCon, or some of the things you'll need to do for running a game at GauntletCon. We're going to start with just getting in touch with your players in advance. We'll hit on how to launch your game at the convention. We'll then go into kind of some of your options for running the game online, including how to possibly stream the game if you would prefer to do that. Um, and then just some basic online tools such as online dice rollers and online what we call character keepers if you're not using pregens. So, and then just an online player folder. So, um, we'll be doing a couple more of these meetings, and I'll be posting a couple more recordings, and then kind of keeping the one that is probably for the best is probably the best. But thanks to everybody for joining and watching. Today, we're going to start with all of you have created games in the GauntletCon site. You've developed and created the event descriptions and set up the events. Most of you have at least a couple of players in the game, and we expect the rest of the slots to fill over the next week or so. As we continue to recruit players, people get back from Big Bad Con and other conventions and start really thinking about what their GauntletCon schedule is going to be. So what I want to do right now is show you, we asked that like roughly somewhere between a week and half a week before your game, not necessarily the start of the con, but the start of your game, you go ahead and reach out to the players who are scheduled just to say hi, introduce yourself as GM, see if they have any questions, and let them know, remind them of any content or trigger warnings you've added for the game, what the game is about. If there's any content that might be disturbing, remind them what that is, so that they feel they need to opt in or out. And if you plan to record the game or stream the game, let them know then and there if you're able to just let them know the game will be recorded. That way, if they want to opt out of being recorded, they can either talk to you about whether that's negotiable for you, or they can just kind of opt out in favor of another player. That way, if they just don't want to be recorded, I find that it's best to let them know in advance rather than asking during the session if it's okay to record, because that puts people on the spot around other people. And I find that it's really best to just kind of ask them in advance. You might be wondering, how do I get the emails of the players? And so I've got this particular one that does not have any players in it, so we won't risk exposing anybody's email. But as the event creator, and only as the event creator, I have the ability to do this as an administrator, but normally only the event creator has this. I can go into the game, and most of you should know how to get to this page on the site, the page that describes your game. Be sure you're logged in. And if you are the event creator, you should see a little section down here called Event Creator Controls. And this will allow you to delete your event, edit your event, duplicate your event. You don't need to worry about any of those right now. The other thing it will allow you to do is show emails. And over here, where your RSVP list is and where your wait list is, you'll go ahead and see what the emails are for your players. And that'll allow you to kind of put together a quick email list and get in touch with them. Again, it's a good time to just say hello, introduce yourself as the GM, let them know you'll be playing together. Let them know if there's any resources you'd like to share with them before. And we'll talk in a minute about setting up your player folder for sharing those resources and what some of that might look like. And then just remind them about the game's content and what it's about. I like to actually hit Kat's content, tone, subject matter, all that good stuff, and then just remind them what the just kind of get what you're looking for in the game. If it's going to be fun, if it's going to be goofy, if it's going to be very serious, if it's going to be grim. If it's going to involve anything that people would typically have a kind of a strong emotional reaction to, give them a heads up. If it's really important that it be a surprise, give them a few sort of range of things that might happen. Think of it as a movie where you don't want you want everybody who comes in to be looking for that particular movie and not to go like, wow, I hate jump scares, and I wasn't expecting any jump scares, and then they were all over the place. Um, so just kind of thinking content in that terms, so that you're looking for players who are going to have a good time with your game. The players are looking for games where they're going to have a good time. And even broad genre categories like horror might not be as meaningful as just saying like, hey, uh, various types of influence or mind control might come into the game, or just name a few things that might happen. All right. The next thing we suggest you do, kind of in advance of the convention, is put together a player folder. This is for some rules I was playtesting. So you'll see that the first three things in the document are some basic rules: how to create a character, how to create the kind of shared creation of the land territory, and then just basic rules for playing. If you are running a game where you would normally at a convention bring handouts, feel free to put a copy of those, a PDF or Google Doc or Word doc copy of those PDF handouts in your player folder. And then we usually share them via Google Drive. You can certainly use Dropbox or another folder you're comfortable using. But usually just anything that allows you to create one link that you can share with the players, that so that they can kind of view what you've got going on. This player folder includes a Google Drawing, some Google Docs, a PDF, Google Docs, and we have a folder called a character keeper. If you don't have pre-generated characters, we frequently recommend putting together a quick spreadsheet that allows people to put all their characters kind of on one spreadsheet. And here is a model. If you're interested in doing this for your game, we've got a whole bunch that we're about to publish out to people. We have a large directory of all sorts of player resource folders. If you'd like some help setting one up, get in touch and I'll see if I can pinpoint one of our sort of character keeper gurus who are really good at Google Docs putting these together. We generally sometimes, if the GM and players like that, put a space in for a player image and just let them pop in whatever image they can find on Google Images that sort of serves as an image of their player characters. It might include some basic fiction stuff like an about area. And then just some basic character sheet stuff. In this case, there's some numbered traits, some general, or some numbered attributes, some general traits that they use, some complications and conditions. But it's really just a chance to have kind of a big single shared character sheet where you and each other can sort of look at all the important information about characters at the same time. If you would like help putting a character keeper together, especially if you don't have pre-gens you're just going to hand out, let us know. Pre-gens are also, if you are going to use pre-gens, putting a little folder or a set of files for the pre-gens in your player folder is great. And that's another thing you can start sharing with your players kind of early on in the process before the convention starts. And we generally recommend, you can do that up to the day of your game if you prefer, but we generally recommend taking 6 to 3 days before the game. If you're still trying to fill spaces, feel free to hold off on that. Or if you need a little more time to get your character, your player folder together, hold off on that. But that does give you sort of one easy to share space where you can put all your handouts, all your pre-gens, a character keeper, all that good stuff can go together here. All right, I'm going to close these two. I'm going to switch our sharing over to give you kind of a preview of what Discord will look like. We're not quite ready yet to bring people who other than our help desk in for Discord. But I'm going to give you a little preview of what our Discord looks like, because the next couple of steps are going to be things you will do in our Discord server. So during the convention, most of the activity of the convention will be via Discord. And if your players like write back and say like, hey, how do I get on the Discord server? You can just let them know that a few days before the convention, we'll be writing everybody and sharing an invite link to put them on the server. Right now, we just have our help desk in so that they can kind of get in and kind of set stuff up, and a few of our admins as well. If you are not familiar with Discord, it's a lot like Slack or some other things. There's a ton of channels over here on the left side is a big channel list. And we break up content by channels. There's going to be space to talk about RPGs. There's going to be space to post videos that people have taken during the con, if they've recorded their games or if they've recorded their panels. You can chat about codecs. We'll have a space to chat about the Gauntlets family of podcast. Post short vignettes about your game. We have a channel called Dreams and Prizes where people can share dreams or good wishes for people they were in games with, whether that be GMs or other players, just to thank them for being present and helping kind of create a good game or a good space. And everybody who shares a dream is entered into a drawing for one of our prizes. There is a channel for help desk, and there's a couple of lock channels for administrators. There's a space for help desk to kind of confer with each other. That's locked. There's space for, hey, we're putting together a pickup game, or my game is not full, so I need some players. And finally, and possibly one of the more important ones for right now, is mustering point. About 15 minutes before your game, you're going to hit mustering point and give them information, and we'll tell you how to get that information. For your players, about how to get into the game. Help desk will pin that in, and then everybody who is registered to join your game will be able to join. And that way, you don't have to write to anybody. You don't have to, if help desk is still sort of generating a new group of players, or we're trying to find people on the wait list, or we can't find some of your players, this will be a point where help desk can get everybody into the right place at the right time. And we ask that you be present at the mustering point about 15 minutes advance with a link, especially because this year we did not do overlapping time slots, which means we have anywhere from 10 to 20 games mustering at any point in time. So that'll help desk a lot if you can get in there about 15 minutes before, post the link to your game. And I'm going to show you in the next step how to get that link to your game. We're going to look at a few options you have for kind of hosting the game. And we'll come back to Discord in a minute to talk about a couple of other things. All right, we're going to move our share back over here. So the first option you have for hosting a game is Google Hangouts. And we're going to use the option here called video call. Google Hangouts is sadly not long for this world. It has been an easy kind of video conferencing service, and the one that a lot of people have defaulted to for a long, long time. And we were found out earlier this year, it was being dropped for most general Google users. It may be replaced. We're not really sure what the replacement will act like or look like. But we're hoping we'll get one. So if you go to hangoutsgoogle.com and ignore everything else, just look for the button that says video call. And I'm going to pull up that video call button real quick and then switch to sharing that video call. So it opens a new window in most cases. That sort of brings your camera and your microphone up. If you are having trouble with your camera and microphone, you can look to the upper right where there is some settings. At first, you'll see you'll just be able to copy a link to share. You can invite people by their emails, but we recommend just hitting this button that says copy link to share and sharing that with the help desk via the mustering point channel. That's what you'll just post in help desk via the mustering point channel. I'm just going to paste it here so you can see what it looks like. It'll be a hash key with a lot of information followed by hangouts.google.call followed by the hash key. So for now, I'm just going to close that invite people and show you a quick troubleshooting trick. I'm going to try to do this for each of them. And this will tell you on this quick screen right here, when you hit your, you're going to look for the gear in the upper right-hand corner. And if you ever need to pull up your invite screen, that button with a person next to it will pull back up your invite screen. Close that. But if you just need your settings, you'll see what video camera it's pulling from, what microphone it's pulling from, and what speakers it is going to, and you'll be able to kind of adjust things there. You'll see I have a few different options. And if you're ever having trouble, like you can't get your video up, you can't get your audio up, or one of your players can't do it, just make sure they click on that. And that should tell them what they're drawing from. And right now I'm just wearing my USB headset, so that's what it should point to. And that's all correct, so that's done. If a player is having trouble with their connection, they can sort of throttle their own bandwidth here to make sure that they don't take up excessive amounts of their own bandwidth and make it a little easier for them to use, and they can just drop down to a lower rating. They can also, if they're having trouble with their connection, under bandwidth, just general bandwidth, switch to audio only. And that should free up a good bit of their connection and solve some of their connection problems. They can also kind of do that themselves by just turning off their camera. All right. Move that back there. And when you are done with your game session, you'll just press hang up. Google Hangouts no longer has an option for recording or streaming directly from the Hangout video. If you have the ability to record things locally and feel comfortable doing that, you should feel free to do that. Just make sure your players know in advance, preferably before the beginning of the session, that you plan to do that. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I generally prefer that players not be asked on the spot if they are okay with recording or streaming. I really would encourage people to think about that and reach out to the players before the session to make sure they're okay. And I'm gonna close this. First, I'm gonna switch back to that other window, and then I'm gonna end the game or end that stream. The other option we find that's kind of a little more fluid, gives you a little more options if you would like to record or stream your game, is StreamYard. And I'm gonna move over to that StreamYard window right now. When you log into StreamYard, now StreamYard is just log in with your email. I'll actually kind of walk you through the login process. It's a little tricky. I'm gonna click my account and log out. And you'll go to StreamYard and just click log in or get started if this is your first time. Type in your email address. You'll see all my email addresses there. And they will email you a 6-digit code. And we'll just wait a pause for a second. Uh, and I've got my 6-digit code they've emailed to me. I'm gonna come back to StreamYard, type that in. And if you don't want to broadcast your game, or stream it or record it, you can just go ahead and create broadcast. If you'd like to stream or record your game, we recommend going to YouTube. You'll see I've already got my YouTube channel set up there. You're gonna add a destination. And it'll just walk you through the process of adding a YouTube channel and logging into your YouTube account. I'm going to just backtrack from that. That's a pretty standard Google process for connecting to services to your Google account. So the next option is or the next step after you've kind of set up your connection between StreamYard and your Google account is to start your broadcast. I am going to show you right now how to set something up that doesn't require streaming or recording, or that doesn't use streaming or recording. And to do that, you'll just look past all of this. And again, I'll walk through that step again. You can click Create Broadcast. It's going to ask you where you want to broadcast to, and you'll just choose Skip. I'll choose Later. It'll ask you for a title for your broadcast. I'm going to call this Gauntlet sample game. Create this broadcast. That'll take you back to the sample screen where you'll see your next option is Enter Broadcast Studio. You'll see a big blue button that says Enter Broadcast Studio, and you can do that. Here it'll let you test your settings or make sure everything is working. You'll see a sort of microphone feed button, and I can see here that my mic is working. I can check my settings and make sure much like we did before, that everything is coming from the right camera, everything is coming from the right microphone and speaker. And press done and enter Broadcast Studio. As the person in charge, you'll have one more step you need to do before setting up the Broadcast Studio, and that is to click your little button down, your little image of yourself down here, and that clicking it again will remove it from you, and there'll be a pop-up window to sort of advise you on that and remind you what how to make it work. But you'll see your camera down here. You won't see it on screen, and when you click it, it'll be there on screen, and your audio and video will come through. You may need to remind people to do that when they log in. You'll notice, sadly, this is a slightly smaller screen space than Google Hangouts. So that is just sort of an accepted limitation of this particular service. Once you're ready for your players, you'll just press the invite link. And much like you did for Google Hangouts, you'll just copy it to the clipboard, and you'll share it with Help Desk and at the mustering point for your game. And they'll use it to get the right people into your game. And go from there. I will show you real quick a couple of options. If you want to record, we recommend StreamYard over anything else. So once you're in, you can look to the upper right-hand corner and see Add Destination, and add a destination. The first one I've got here is my YouTube channel. And I can alter my title a little bit if I want it to be slightly different. Add a description. Type in Dungeon World here as my description. And then much like if you've ever used YouTube videos before, you can set public, unlisted, private. I think for most of these, I try to set to unlisted. And that way the recordings are not available, or the streams are not available except to people I specifically share them with. And I can save changes. And it's acting up, but it should not keep doing that. And there we go. You'll notice that when I do that, if you look to the upper right, there'll be a new YouTube button with the logo for my channel. I'm going to move our chat out of the way. You can, at this point, click view on YouTube, and that will open your YouTube stream to show you what it looks like. And you may have to click a confirmation message. There is about a 10-second delay for the broadcast, and right now we're not actually broadcasting. You'll see back when I look over here that I've not clicked the go live button to actually start the broadcast yet. It's just ready to stream to YouTube. It has set up a space on YouTube that can be streamed to. And anyone who clicks the link, and you can just share this YouTube link with anyone, but until they click the link, or until you actually press start with the go live button, they'll all just see sort of your channel logo waiting to start. And then once your players are in and they're all ready to start, you can press go live, and you'll be ready to go. Okay. So those are our two most recommended options. I am gonna leave the studio, and just, you don't need to do this at the end of your broadcast, but just so they can have a clean workspace, I'm going to go ahead and delete mine. I'm going to delete it on YouTube as well, so I don't have a spare YouTube video hanging out on my channel. There we go. And so that's StreamYard. It's really easy to use. We'll provide some documentation later tonight or tomorrow evening. We're going to be publishing our GauntletCon handbook for GMs and players that kind of gives you just basic information on what to look for. And I am going to move our share screen one more time back over to the Google Hangouts page as I close down the StreamYard page. And I will show you one last kind of option we have, and that's Jitsi. We've had a lot of good luck with Jitsi, but we keep finding there's a few people who, for reasons we've never really kind of been able to figure out, have trouble using it. If it's a platform you prefer and you're not going to stream or record your game, you're welcome to use it, and just inform your players in advance you'll be using Jitsi. It is completely free. It does not require you to log in at any point. And I should also mention that neither Google Hangouts nor StreamYard require your attendees or your guests to log in. It will refer to them in different ways, but anybody joining your stream after you've started it is not required to log, or joining your conference after you started is not required to log in or any way. They can just follow the link that you share with them. But Jitsi does not require you to log in. You'll go to jitsi.org, not .com. You'll go to jitsi.org, click Start a Call. It will randomly choose a meeting title for you, which is fine. And then there is your meeting. And it will automatically give you all the information you need to copy, and there's the little link to copy it. You have the option of adding a password. By default, it doesn't set up one. If you do start a password, be sure to share it with help desk, either publicly or privately, and you'll be able to kind of go from there. We don't recommend using Jitsi to stream or record a game. Just if you're using just doing a conference, we find that Jitsi, somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes and 2 hours, Jitsi just times out and doesn't continue streaming or recording. And then you don't really have there's not really a quick fix option. That may have been improved. It may be fixed by the time GauntletCon starts, but we've had enough people experience it that we're advising people not to use Jitsi for streaming or recording. Okay. And I'm going to close this Jitsi window. Of course, if you have access to a service like Zoom, if you have access to a service like GoToMeeting, you are welcome to use those for your game. Just make sure that you let help desk know you're doing that. Reach out to your players in advance, let them know you're doing that. If there's a test link they can use, you share that with them or let them know. Most of those services work really well. I use Zoom for most of my games because I have a client who provides me with a Zoom account. But you're not required to spend any. We wanted this. This is mainly about free services. One other thing that I wanted to make sure people see is that, and several of you probably know, is that Discord, the program I was showing you before that we host, has built-in audio chat. We have an area called Tim Hortons for people to use audio chat just to hang out. However, if you would like to have an audio chat area for your game, it will work like this. Let us know in advance, by say next Monday, and we can set up a chat channel just for your games. And this will just be audio. It works. There's no video component to it, only the audio. It's voice. You'll see that once you click on it, you'll see down here there's a voice connected indicator. Anybody on the channel will also be able to hear what you're saying, and you'll be able to join in and comment and share with them. Down here, there's some information about the connection. You can check your IP address and whether it's secured, and the speed of the connection, things like that. And then there's also a disconnect button here for when you're ready to disconnect from the channel. And I'm going to disconnect from the channel now. The nice thing about those Discord channels is you can still use all the different Discord chats, which include a couple of tools that are really, really good and easy to use. So if you have a player folder you want to share out via Discord channel, like the mustering channel, if you want to say, hey, please come to my audio channel on the here on Discord, and we're going to run the game via audio only, and here's a link to the player folder. We can include that rather than a link to the video conferencing there. I think that's it for basic conferencing options. I have a few other tools I want to bring your attention to. We've already talked a little about player folders and character keepers. The next thing I want to talk about is die rolling. We have one specific die roller that was created for the Gauntlet, and I'm going to share that with you now. And that's called Roll for Your Party. And it is honest. It is a lovely die roller. Roll for your .party. When you go to that web address, it will create a die room for you, or a dice room for you, and you can share. And here you'll see that what it created for me was Roll for Your Party /room/early firm elf. And once you're in there and are looking around, you will see that you'll have a die pool there, and you can several different options for dice you can roll. There's D6s. There's two different kinds of D6s, one with pips, one without. There's the option for going everything up to D20, and you'll see down here there's a little checkbox for funky dice, and that will add on all the what I like to call the Dungeon Crawl Classics dice. So it's D3, D4, D5, D6, D7, D8, all the way up to D30, D100. There's even an option on both the Funky Dice panel and the regular panel for Fate die. You'll see those as DF, or for Fudge or Fate die. Well, there's even options for blank tokens. So if there's things where you need just some blank tokens, you can do that. You can shift colors around. The nice thing about doing this is when you share this URL with your players, you'll all see the same dice with all the same rolls. So this is a shared dice room. So when I roll a die, it's the magenta D10 that just rolled a 2. It'll be there for the players, and all they have to do is double click it, and it re-rolls, and you can see it re-roll visually as well as the changing number. You can also click it and then click the big green button that says re-roll selected. There's 2 other buttons that are on here. Is if the room is becoming very cluttered with die, you can select a bunch of dice all at once. I'm going to put down a bunch of D12s. And you can select the D12s all at once, all but one of them, and press delete selected. The other button is if you just want to completely reset the room and remove all the dice in it, you can press clear. But that does remove all the dice. I generally like to warn players when we're using it to not press the clear button because it removes all the dice from the room. There's a few other options there, but those are the ones that are pretty typical for most games. Again, DF is the Fate Fudge dice, and you can use those. I'll put down a typical Fate roll of 4DF, and it all comes up blanks. So I'm going to re-roll that, and now I've got a total of 0. So I'm going to re-roll that. And I'm getting 0 again. This is really weird. But this, just like every time I play Fate, I end up with nothing. Anyway, I end up with terrible rolls on Fate. So that those Fate Fudge dice are there. The other option that I like to make sure people know they can do is we have a strong culture of trusting players and trusting GMs. If the die roller is kind of clunky, or people are not jiving with it, or people are kind of struggling to get their head around it, feel free to let players roll their own dice at home. In fact, they don't have to do consistently the same thing throughout the whole game. If some players want to roll online and some players want to roll at home, I tend to let players kind of do whichever of those options they're most comfortable with. I run OSR games, and even with OSR games, I tell players that they're on the honor system, and I trust them to accurately report their own dice rolls if they're rolling at home. One other option you have, especially if you are rolling on Discord, and again, I will switch over to the Discord window, is we have a channel called Emergency Dice, and I'm going to see if I can remember how it works. One second, let me see if I can find it. It is down under bots, and multiple people can use Emergency Dice at once. Let me see if I can find a pin message. If I cannot remember how this is. Yep, we are out of pin messages there. I'm going to remind the team to bring that up. But there is a formula for. See if I can do it. Yep. So if you start with a slash, type roll, type, or just yeah. Start with a slash, type roll, and type out the die formula you want. And you can make up some pretty crazy numbers. You don't have to stick to standard die sizes. So if I want to roll a D101, it rolls a D101 and comes up with a D6 or 76. It will also show you, I believe, if you break that out, say I want to do a roll 3d6, but the individual die rolls are important to me. It will show you what the individual die rolls are there too. So instead of just giving you the total 9, it will also tell you that you got a 2, a 2, and a 5. And everybody can sort of use this, especially if they are in a chat game. If you like a separate bot for you, I think we might be able to do that. that would just be for your room. Check in with me, and I will check in with our Discord owner, who is River Williamson. So, um, and River will tell me what the correct information is there. All right. And I think that's the part I'm going to record today, and I'll just stop the recording.